Well, another Mental Fitness Friday is here and excited to share the topic today, this inner dialogue of I am enough, and get into a little bit of why does inner dialogue work? Does it work? And where I think it really helps is with anxiety. This inner dialogue really can get stuck in anxiousness. And the positive piece of this, a message like I am enough, I've seen it, I've experienced it. It's like, when clients maybe come to me or others maybe ask, oh, you're a therapist. How do you know? And when do you see change happening in clients? And that like light bulb moment. And really for me, it's been in this inner dialogue. And specifically, this one right here goes deep. The I am enough portion, the saying it and the believing it piece. That when you can have that at your core, it really switches that dialogue, right? I think I share the idea of being curious without judgment. And when you stand on that I am enough belief, man, it can really have a powerful, positive impact. And so in these Mental Fitness Fridays, I'm thinking about how they can you can hear a concept, you can have a practical tip, and in this case, a practical phrase to use, and a story, right? So story here is, for me, it takes me back to my freshman year of high school. So part of my history as well, right, is I moved around a decent amount as a kid. Our family just did, based on the context and what was happening in life. And so with that, being an athlete was my in, right? Being an athlete was the way that I could belong in so many different communities, friends, peers, teams, whatever it was. And so this year, going into my freshman year of high school, that summer, the sport that was there was football. Now, I had never played tackle football before. I'd done flag football for a couple of years, but this was my first year in putting on some pads. Man, it was an experience to say the least. So I'll share one of them, right? Specifically, I remember a practice early on, and for me, tackling was a whole new thing. I didn't necessarily have form. It was just kind of, here's my athletic ability and I'm going to give it the best I got. And so I remember, maybe you've done this before, right? I remember the drill where there are two of those longer pads on the side of you, right? And you facing someone who has the ball. And you're probably about 6 to 8 feet apart. And you're laying down. And the idea is you pop up and tackle as fast as you can. So one of the first times I did this drill, I remember laying down on the ground and thinking to myself, what am I doing? I have no clue what I'm doing. And hearing a lot of that dialogue and telling myself, you just got to do it. You just got to try it. And that moment before you know that the coach is going to blow the whistle, you're waiting in anticipation and boom, the whistle. And I remember popping up as fast as I can, right? With all these pads on, getting my head up to see where the ball carrier was right in front of me. I remember lowering my right shoulder down and moving my head just to the side and launching myself as fast and hard as I could. Now, let me back up just a second, right? Before I get into that last part, because going into my freshman year of high school, I was small, like 5'6", maybe 5'7", and like 110 pounds soaking wet. Like I was a small kid going in. And so launching everything I had, I remember hitting square on my shoulder, making the tackle and dropping to the ground. And I felt like I was laying there forever. And I turn over and all as I could feel is this pain going down my right shoulder, like my arm had just separated. The coach comes over, starts checking me out a little bit, moving it around, and he goes, oh, you're good. You got a stinger. You're good. get back in line. And in those moments, I specifically remember going through this point of, man, if I don't, what are other people going to think of me? What are my teammates going to think of me? What is my coach going to think of me? I got to prove myself that I am worthy of, right? In this case, that I'm enough, that I'm going to belong, in this new environment and belong in this new place. So sure enough, you pop up, right? Try and rub it off a little bit and get back in, and you do it. And that's at least what's my experience. And so, right, I think plenty of those experiences in sports that happen in that way, to where deep down, because I had already had this message of, yeah, I am enough when somebody else tells me I am enough or gives me that approval. And I see that in their faces and I take it in and I'm like, oh yeah, that's my in. That's how I do it. Versus what's taken me years now is to separate that. To not feel, and this is what struck me, is not feel as chained to what other people think, feel, react, spending all the time and energy of reading all of those things. And instead of feeling chained to that in my own self-worth, it is believing that, no, I am enough, right? I am enough with just who I am. And what happens there for me and what's happened is I felt that freedom. I felt this breath of fresh air, that I don't have to be attached to what other people think in that way. And because of that, there are things that can happen. I can dream. I can put on a podcast, right? I can start a business. I can be, I think to me, a better partner, right? A better husband. I can be a better father. I can be a better friend. There's a lot that's gone on in this transition of I am enough. And where the mental fitness piece sticks in, and this is where I think it can get deep, is it's practiced. You got to recognize it with the curiousness, right? Not judgment, but you got to recognize it and you got to practice it. There's these moments when as you practice it, you will see then that I am enough continues to be a part of that belief. And when you get that positive change, instead of the, right, there's this positive reinforcement versus negative reinforcement. When you feel that freedom, there was something inside of me that said, oh, that's good. That's a deep kind of good. And I like that kind of good when I felt that. And so that became more and more of a driving force for me to recognize those moments of where I get stuck, right? In the anxiousness, recognize that, oh, am I in this place of telling myself that I am not enough because I need to prove myself to that new person that's right there? And can I separate that and say, I'm okay because I know that I am, enough and what I am, whatever it is, doing here or saying or even speaking right now and sharing that. So this is one that, I think we'll continue to expand upon because there's a whole nother part of the I am enough and, right? There's this motivation section that I've recognized that I had to go through and say, well, if I'm not criticizing myself or if I'm not judging myself, I'm not going to get better. And that's what I want. I want to get better at what I'm doing, especially in athletics. But what I have recognized is that you can be motivated and you can do better without the consequence of I am only enough because of what other person says to me. And that proving piece that carries with you. That, though, is for another time, which I think will be next week. And I'm excited to be able to share that one as well. But at least for today, I hope you can take away the idea and phrase of I am enough, that it really can help reduce anxiousness in your life and that it needs to be practiced. It needs to be said. And that's something like this, some tools that I've recognized, and I'll throw this one here at the end. But if you can attach a phrase like I am enough or that I'm doing the best I can, if you can attach that to something you already do, like let's say brushing your teeth. And every time you brush your teeth, you take a moment and you say, I'm enough. And then you brush your teeth. And that right there is potentially, right, a practice that can be established in your life. So I hope you can. I hope you can take that. I hope you can give it a shot. Be curious about it. See if that makes some change. And I'd love to hear as well if that is something that works for you. If maybe you have other things that you've been able to also share and also work with in regards to this inner dialogue, right? And a phrase like I am enough. I'm excited about this mental fitness community that we can continue to build. And so let me know, subscribe, comment, all of those things. And with that, I'll leave you with be curious, stay curious without judgment. Until next time. Thank you for joining us on this transformative journey through mental fitness stories with John Steele. If you resonated with today's episode, don't forget to hit subscribe and leave a review on your podcast platform of your choice. Remember, your story is important, and so is your mental well-being. If you have a personal mental fitness journey you'd like to share or topics you'd like us to explore in future episodes, reach out to us on social media or through our website. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations, expert insights, and practical tips to help you cultivate a resilient mind. Until next time, take care of your mind, nurture your inner dialogue, and prioritize your self-care. Remember, you are not alone, and your mental fitness and well-being is worth the investment. Thanks for being a part of the Mental Fitness Stories community.